Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining our Stoneridge Connect session about Automate the Gaps, Practical Power Automate Workflows, and BC Copilot Payables Agent. We hear a lot of people that struggle embracing AI, right? Or think that they are not using AI to their full potential. The rate at which changes in Copilot and AI in general are coming is very fast nowadays, and it's already like that for months or for a year. Be honest, raise your hand if you feel like overwhelmed because of AI or concerns about the unknown. I myself, I have a lot of concerns and I feel overwhelmed many times. And sometimes I feel the pressure that we have to use AI for everything because you think that everyone around you is doing that too, right? But with that, we think that the Business Central Payables Agent is one of the easiest ways to get started with AI or expand your AI endeavors within your organization. The Payables Agent is really low-hanging fruit that can be implemented with very limited setup and little to no risk. So the Payables Agent will automate a lot of the processes related to capturing purchase invoices and matching them with your receipts and with your POs. So the Payables Agent can be a very quick AI win for many companies, and it demonstrates also where AI and Copilot are going, right? Where Microsoft is going with all of this. We will also see future versions, abilities to integrate with your custom agents. But recent BC updates include significant improvements, right? Especially in the three-way matching area. So for this session, I wanted to keep it simple and we'll show you what the out-of-the-box Business Central Payables Agent can do for you. With that, here's the agenda for today. So we're going to have a quick look at the setup for the Business Central Payables Agent. We're going to have a look at purchase invoice automation using that Payables Agent, the three-way matching that's done in the Payables Agent. Then we'll leverage Power Automate with the Payables Agent. That's when we come in with the approvals and the routing, where we use Power Automate for, and we're going to be talking a little bit about pricing of all of this. So before we get started, a little bit about myself. Theo Kirsten here, Principal Consultant at Stoneridge. I have 22 years of experience now with NAV, Navision, and Business Central. Done many projects in the supply chain area, right, with sales orders, purchase orders, everything related to that. But mostly my experience and my parts in the projects are around finance and accounting and everything that comes with that. But lately, I've also done a lot of things on the Power Platform, specifically Power Automate. That's where part of this presentation today will be about. To get started, again, two main components, Payables Agent, Power Automate. We'll start with the Payables Agent. We're going to talk a little bit about the prerequisites, about the setup in Business Central. We're going to look at some examples of purchase invoice processing, look at the three-way matching. Then we're going to leverage in Power Automate to do the approvals, the routing, approval routing matrix, and how we can automate some of that approval so that really nobody has to really look at all the actual approvals. With that, let's open up Business Central and have a look at the Payables Agent itself. So in Business Central, if you are using Business Central in the cloud and you are, which you probably should be then, you are on a version 24 or higher, you will see the Payables Agent and probably also like the sales order agent here, but we're going to focus on the Payables Agent today. You will see that in your Business Central. So that is basically the only prerequisite. You got to be in the cloud. You got to be on Business Central 24 or higher. I'm using 27.5 today because that has all the latest and greatest features, especially again when it comes to the three-way matching. When you hover over this icon for the Payables Agent, it will show you this configuration option, and the configuration is really simple. There's only two setup fields that you need to know about. The first one is the email box, right? You have to have a separate mailbox where your invoices are going to go to, the purchase invoices that you want to handle, that you want the payables agent to handle. So that you can, for testing, you can use your own, but it's recommended to set up a separate one to make sure you're not going to mix up all kind of other emails. So that's the first one, the first setting and the first prerequisite. Here is one other thing that you have to think about. Does the payables agent need to review, does a human need to review an email before the payable agent is going to pick it up? So here comes how within your organization, how does your process, how is it looking like? Are you going to give away that email address? Let's say that, for instance, in our example, it would be AP, like at stoneridge.com, for instance, right? Are your vendors sending their invoices directly to that email box? Or are vendors sending it to people within your organization or maybe another email box? And is somebody then manually going to drag and drop or maybe send forward their emails with the invoices to this email box? If the last one is the case, then you don't need to review all the invoices, right? Somebody has already done that and determined, okay, this is an invoice, this is an email that needs to be considered by the payables agent. If all your vendors are sending it to the email box directly, you probably want somebody to have a look at that email first, because they're also going to send you like reminders, statements. They're probably going to send some spam to your AP box. You don't want to use all your Copilot credits, your AI credits, to have all of that evaluated by a payables agent. So in that case, you want to review those emails. So those are the two options that are important for when we're setting it up. Does somebody need to review it first? And what is the email address that the payables agent is monitoring? Okay, but when you've set those up, then you can start sending emails to that email box, and then the system will create tasks here for you in this list that because still somebody has to, usually, especially in the beginning, you want somebody to have a look at the things that are coming in. So we'll start with a very common scenario here that I want to have a look at first. So it's one I've put in already an example, because I'm not going to show you exactly here emails, because I prepared some of these examples. So I sent already an email in, but that's all I did. I sent an email with an invoice from Johnson Trading. This is one of those examples where that you see a lot, right? For instance, when you get an email for utilities, right, or for rent, or for, in my example here, for some office supplies, coffee in my example, and you typically don't always create a purchase order for those kind of things. So the payables agent will get the invoice. It will find the vendor. In this case, again, we're assuming the vendor is already there. We're going to have a look at next, if the vendor is not there yet. But in this case, the vendor is there already, and it's for something that needs to be posted to a GL account. So here's the email. You can, by the way, you can click on this here, and then you can see exactly the email. I sent this email to our inbox. No further messages here, but you can put that in. And in the view PDF, it shows you exactly what is on the PDF that was attached to that email, right? Again, in this case, it was some coffee beans and some shipping charges from the Johnson Trading. So this is the PDF. And if I click on the review button here, you can see what the agent did. Again, I have not touched any of this yet. This is everything that the agent already did for me, right? From the PDF, it extracted the vendor, right? So I have Johnson Trading was already set up as a vendor. It's vendor number 60. The invoice number that was on this invoice here in the top, 3060 at the end, it put there already. The document date, it said December 12th. So it put that nice for you here. The due date, extracted it from it. All of that was from the PDF. And from the line items, it extracted what kind of thing it was. As you can see in the red circle here with the I in it, you can click on that, and then the system will show you why it matched it to this GL account, right? Because the whole roasted beans and then whatever is in that on the invoice was on a similar invoice from this company on the 4th of June as well. So it even has a link here to the original invoice that we got in June, right? So this is a posted purchase invoice from the same vendor. And because of the similarities, the system is suggesting to post this new invoice in the same way. So that is typically how the payables agent works, right? So you don't have to do a lot of setups to make this happen. You don't have to set up item references. You don't have to set up default GL accounts for vendors. It will look at the history of what was posted in your system for the same vendor or for similar vendors to determine, I'm going to suggest this GL account or this item or whatever it is to post this invoice for. So that is when the vendor is known and when it has some information to review and tie it to this invoice. Now let's see what happens if the vendor was not known, right? Because you may have concerns about what's going to happen if the vendor is not known. So here is an email that was sent to the inbox and the vendor was not known, right? So this was a vendor, the coffee company, and I don't have a vendor number for that in my system. So it does create a document draft. So the information, as much as it can, it will put that in the right boxes, but it doesn't know the vendor yet. It doesn't know the GLs to map it yet. And it suggests to create a vendor, right? That's what you can do. You can give other instructions to the payables agent, but typically in this case, it suggests you want to create a vendor. So you just click on this create vendor. It's going to create a new vendor number for you here. And it's showing that a new vendor was created, and this was all the information that was extracted from the PDF. But before you actually continue, the agent wants you to review it. So you click on this review button. It shows you the vendor card with all the information with these eyes to show you this is what I extracted from the PDF. Make sure that this is all correct. You also see that it automatically blocked the vendor, right? So it creates the new vendor, but it blocks it to make sure that somebody is going to review it, right? It's not doing everything and nobody has to look at it. So it makes sure it forces somebody in the organization to unblock it, either by sending an approval request, right? So you can also use the request approval here so that somebody from accounting or maybe some things need to be added to this vendor before you actually want to start using this vendor. But anyway, even if the vendor is not unblocked right away, the system can continue with the purchase draft, right? So that new vendor number that was created is now linked to this draft. And also here it found some information on what probably this invoice was about. So also here it's coffee cups. So it assumes all of this is also office supplies. So that's why it's suggesting GL account 64100 for it. So also here everything has been predefined by the agent, and somebody can review it and make changes, obviously, right, before you actually create an invoice, because that's the final step. We're going to have a look at that with our next example. But as shown also the previous example, that creates purchase document drafts only when a user here clicks finalize draft is when this draft is becoming an actual invoice that can be posted into Business Central. But a lot of the manual key-in has been done for you, and so that you can easily continue with the process. So my next example is where we can do a three-way match. The last example, actually, what I'm going to show you from the agent. So here I have submitted an invoice from USPS, the United States Postal Service, invoice number 3067. Let me review that invoice. So here's, again, here, if you want to click view PDF, you get the full invoice. You can zoom in and see exactly what USPS is invoicing us for. They provided us some custom boxes. Anyway, the invoice that was created from it here, because the USPS was already set up as a vendor. So it's tied to the vendor. It puts in the same things as we just talked about: due date, document number. But in this case, you see there was an order line match, right? I created a PO for this purchase, right? So if we go to purchase orders, it's just your regular Business Central purchase orders. Number 10634 was created for this vendor. From UPS, we had some custom packaging material ordered. And by now, in the meantime, that order has been received. So the warehouse has posted the receipt of these boxes that were received from USPS. So now we got the invoice, and the payables agent automatically matches that purchase order with this invoice. And with the purchase order, it also automatically matches it with the receipt. So that's where your three-way matching comes in. So from here, you can click on that order match if you want to make sure, right? Because again, before the actual invoice can be posted, somebody needs to confirm all of this. There's still the human in the loop, as Microsoft calls that, we want to have. So you can open up that purchase order, review everything, make sure that pricing and everything is okay. Because as you can see, the total purchase order was for 8,100. We'll get back to that here in a minute when we look at the approval. But from here on now, you can click this finalize draft, and the finalized draft will create an actual purchase invoice linked to the purchase order. So I click finalize draft. It's creating the record for me here, and it opens it up right away. Again, we're going to have a look at the approval process here. My approval process in this case requires that I also indicate which is the department, because the department determines who is going to approve the invoice here. So in this case, we need to add that. We know that Microsoft is also working on those kind of things, that is going to be, because sometimes we can see that on the PDF on the invoice. So that is coming. But I created a purchase invoice. As you can see, it matched it to the receipt. With the receipt, we know which PO it is, and it has the total document amount that it captured there. Now we can hit that Send Approval Request button in Business Central, and that sets the status of this purchase invoice to pending approval. Now you can do the regular Business Central approval processes, meaning that you can use your workflows in Business Central. But in this case, I wanted to show you how we can leverage Power Automate to do the approvals with using Power Automates. So with Power Automate, we can create an approval matrix, right? Many organizations, what we see, have a matrix that looks something like this, right? You have two variables, like in my example, a business group or a business unit and a department. So here it says that our business units are for home sales, industrial sales, and intercompany sales. And each business unit has its own department. And with that, the department manages, right? So here in my example, if the invoice is up till $2,500, then the manager can approve all of that, right? So here we have the managers set up that are linked to these combinations of departments and business units. And if the invoices get higher, additional people will need to approve, right? Up till over $10,000, then the CEO needs to approve all of that. But for the lower invoices, none of these people are needed. So that's how your matrix is set up. Now we recommend, if you have SharePoint, if you're using SharePoint already in your organization, to set up a SharePoint list for a matrix. And then the Power Automate can leverage that SharePoint list to find the actual person who needs to approve that, right? So here we have, just a little different format, but this is your matrix in a SharePoint list that can be leveraged by Power Automate. If you don't have SharePoint, don't implement SharePoint just for this purpose alone, right? There's other ways that we can have approval matrices set up and that we can leverage with Power Automate. Just usually, in all our projects so far, we've done it with SharePoint, but there are other options. When we have that set up, this is my example of the invoice that I just submitted, right? It was the invoice from USPS. Total invoice was for $8,132. And this is the email that is sent to the approver, right? So this is the approver of the department that needs to approve this invoice. The email has the PDF attached to it. So the approver does not have to log on to Business Central to see all the details or to see the PDF. All the details, including all the individual lines, are in the email, right? The email has the reference to the purchase invoice number, the purchase order number, the receipt number. Again, this is your three-way match in the email. The email also mentions that the invoice was for $8,132, but the PO was only for $8,100. This was the difference. So do we want to go ahead? Do you approve this, Mr. Manager, right? So that's really what we're asking. If there were multiple people before you that had to approve this invoice, you will see this history here. It's all in that email, right? If this is the last person in the line to approve an invoice like this, all that history is shown in the email. All they have to do is hit approve or reject. There's a link in here for Business Central for users that also have access to Business Central. But again, the approver does not have to have Business Central. Maybe they don't even have a license. It's not needed for this approval process. That's a big advantage. Makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker, cheaper, right? You don't have to have all these Business Central licenses. And another thing is that what's the email, they can approve right off the email. Some people may like to use Teams for this purpose, right? So it's the same kind of format of the approval notification. It just looks a little more structured, but the same information is here. And also here you have the attachment, direct access to it, and you can approve or reject. But also on the phone, big advantage, right? Because when an approver is traveling and they are not behind their computer, all of that will slow down your approval process, right? And it takes a long time for invoices to get approved and paid. So to prevent all of that, they can approve directly off their phone without having to log on to their computer or be at the computer. All of the information is also available on their phone. So makes the approval process a lot quicker. So there's a lot of advantages of doing the approval process tied to your invoices that are coming from the payables agent when you're using Power Automate. Here, I'm showing you a couple of screenshots of how that approval flow in Power Automate would look, right? For those of you already familiar with Power Automate, it's a low-code, no-code environment. You can develop and set up your business processes, right? It's all depending on exactly how you want, because every company there is different. There is a lot of templates available already in Power Automate to get you started. And of course, you can use Copilot. Copilot, you can just tell it in clear English what it is that you want it to do. But starting with the templates will help you. It will connect Power Automate with your Business Central approval request. It will get the record, the purchase invoice in this case, and the lines. Then it will connect to SharePoint, right? Because from the invoice, it gets the department and the amounts. Then it connects to SharePoint to find the approvers, the multiple approvers. And then here is where the logic you can define and what it needs to do with that, right? Do we just show the PO amounts and the invoice amounts and the approver has to look at everything and approve it? Do we want to build in some logic where we find the receipt and find the order? And if there is a match, right? If my invoice would have been for 8,100 exactly as what was in the PO, probably you don't want somebody to come in and approve that invoice separately. They already approved the order. So why do the invoice again? So all that kind of logic can be built in Power Automate. So that is a lot of gains that you can get from using Power Automate in combination with your payables agent. All right, last topic, pricing, real quick, because there's really not a lot to talk about when we're talking pricing, because the payables agent in Business Central is free. It's a free module or free add-on or feature, whatever you want to call it, in Business Central, so no extra charges. Power Automate. Everybody that has a Business Central license gets a free Power Automate license. Comes with your Business Central licenses, so no extra cost there. In addition, your approvers don't have to have a Business Central license either, right? So they can approve directly from Outlook. I'm assuming everybody nowadays has Outlook and Teams. So no extra cost when you're using that. Maybe if you don't have a shared email box, like for example, an AP at stoneridge.com that you want to tie to your payables agent, you may need that, but probably you already have one of those. Up till now, no extra cost. Here, now we get to Copilot and we need some Copilot credits, because for the Copilot, for the AI to kick in your agent, we need to buy some Copilot credit. Copilot credits cost less than 1 cent per credit. How much do you need? An invoice, if each individual purchase invoice that is attached to an email, so each PDF is at least 50 credits. So that's 50 cents. For the 50 cents, it gets you it's going to find you the vendor, it's going to find the invoice number, the due date, posting date, all that kind of stuff. Then it needs 5 extra credits for each line, right? If you have an average, what we see with most of our clients, there's between 4 to 5 or 6 lines on average on an invoice, right? Obviously, if you have an invoice with more than 10 lines, that's 50 extra credits, which makes it over $1. But that's an invoice for 10 lines. You also see a lot of invoices with just 1 line on it, right? So again, the average what we see is 4 to 5 lines, so it's 70, 75, maybe 80 cents per invoice processed by the payables agent. But that is the most expensive part, right? Because that's when you do a pay as you go, which I would recommend you start with, right? Before you buy a big package of Copilot credits, just start with a pay as you go, see how it works before you invest too much in it. But if you buy a bigger package, your per credit cost is gonna get lower. If you have an idea of what the predictable usage of Copilot is, you can buy packs. Or you can now also buy new packs for when you have more variable demand on it, or if you have a larger demand. We have a licensing team who is specialized in these Copilot credits plans. So if you have any questions, we can definitely hook you up with somebody on a licensing team and they can help you out with getting started on the Copilot credits. All right. So to recap, what did we learn today? What did we see in today's session? We started with the payables agent in Business Central, how to set it up and how to get started with processing purchase invoices in the payables agent. We looked at purchase invoice automation and an example of the 3-way matching with your purchase invoices. Then we leveraged Power Automate for the approval routing. We saw the benefits for the approvers when using Power Automate for the approval and everything that they can do straight off the face of the email or their Teams message. And we had a look at the pricing of your payables agent and Power Automate, PA and PA. And as you can see, there's really not a lot. So you can be quick, you can be up and running with the payables agent very quick at a very low cost. What's stopping you guys? With that, thank you very much for joining my session today. I will be answering some questions, more questions if you have them here in the chat. But don't hesitate to reach out to me or to anyone at Stoneridge if you have any additional questions. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.